So previously we were discussing about this example here. So I hope you have understood it. I mean, there is a rough estimation here, so you will be able to figure it out because we actually have two formulas as of now. So understand. So this point forward, our dividend is going to grow at a constant rate. This point forward at a 4% dividend. To calculate this point, we actually have a formula when the dividend is constant. So the formula is dividend divided by rate. Dividend is growing at a constant formula at a constant rate. So we actually have a formula is this is dividend divided by rate minus G. This point forward, dividend D1 divided by rate minus G at time 5. Time 5 is D1. So we need to calculate D0 for to calculate our D1. I hope this is understood. And to calculate the 20% growth rate, here we actually need what we need is for 20%, this we are saying that right now the company paid a dividend of $4. Here the company actually has paid a dividend of $4. Now at time one, the company is going to pay a dividend of 4 into 1.2. At time 2, the company is going to pay 4 into 1.2 square, 4 into 1.3 square, and 4 into 1.4 square. This is going to be our D1 and D0 for our D1. And this point forward, we will use this as a reference, time 4 as a reference. So D0 is 4 into 4. Okay, let me just calculate it. 4 into 1.2 is going to give us a value of 4.8. This is going to give us a value of 5.76. Even if you do not remember the formula, don't worry. It's not going to be difficult, but you actually need to understand the concept here. 5.76. And here it's going to be when we multiply 5.76 by 1.3, it's going to be 6.91. And here it's going to be 8.29. So this is going to be our reference point here. 8.29. I want this point forward, the dividend is going to grow forever. How much should I pay for this much perpetuity? Perpetuity, I am saying if I were to receive, let's assume, let's ignore ignore the previous calculations. If this point, if I am standing here at this point, at here, present value, how much will I pay? So we need to calculate the present value here first. So how much we need to pay? Uh, how much will I pay if the current company gave a dividend of 8.29 at this point at a growth rate of 4%? So dividend D1 is going to be D0 8.25 into growth rate of 1.4% into 1.04 divided by the rate is 4%, and then no, the rate is 18%. So 0.18, and I subtract 4% out of it. 0.04. Once I calculate this number, this is what I am willing to pay at time 4. Now understand this thing. This is what I am willing to pay at time 4 for this cash flow. If I calculate this thing, this is going to be 61.58. 61.58 dollars, 8.25 into 1.04 divided by 0.16. So this is going to give us a dollar estimate of 61.59. Now at this point, the present value is 61.58. But if you talk about from this point at time 0, so the present value, what is the present value at time 0? So this is going to be our future value. These are the cash flows. The dividend is growing at a rate of 20%. Now we actually need to discount this thing back to the present value here. And here we will be using our cash flow function. Okay, so understand this thing, how I have done this, but I do not have much space here. Let me just do one thing. This will be usable later. Let me just use it. Let me just okay, here only. Let me just use this space. So the now understand this thing. We are looking at cash flow zero is cash flow at time zero is zero. Cash flow at time one is 4.8. Cash flow at time two is 5.76. This is cash flow at time three is 6.91. Cash flow at time four is 8.29. And cash flow at time four includes 61.58. We need to add 61.58 into this cash flow. This is the total cash flow we received at CF4. Now, using this at a rate of interest rate is 18% for this, we need to calculate our cash flow. So let me just plug in these numbers quickly into my calculator now. And I hope you remember how we used to calculate cash flows. Let me just clear first. Second, clear. We'll click on the CFO function. So CFO 0 is 0. Okay. Enter. Second, we press down key 4.8. We enter. Frequency we do not change 5.76. And we enter. Cash flow 3 is 6.91. 6.91. Enter. And cash flow 4 is 8.29. 8.29 plus 61.58. 61.58 is equal to, and enter. Now IRR, interest rate is 18%. Compute. My bad, sorry. We need to calculate the NPV. So interest rate is 18%. Compute 87.34. Not really. Cash flow. Cash flow 1 is 4.8. Cash flow 2 is 5.76. Cash flow 3 is 6.91. Cash flow 4 is 8.8. 0.29, add 61.58, enter. NPV is 18, enter. Compute. 48.45 is the net present value. So 48.45. Let me just go back. So net present value net present value of the cash flow is 48.45. Now this is our answer. So the company, how much are you willing to pay for a company which is going to grow for at 20% interest, at 20%, the dividend is going to grow at 20% for next 4 years, and then at a 4% thereafter. And at a rate of 18%, the current dividend of a company, the current dividend of the company is $4. So you are willing to pay $48.45 for that company's stock based on Gordon Growth's formula. This is actually this question was the question where we applied everything we have read in in this second part of the LOS about equity instruments based on expected future cash flows. So equity instruments based on expected future cash flows. So the LOS wanted us calculate and interpret the present value of equity instruments based on expected future cash flows, present value of fixed income instruments based on expected future cash flow. You need to understand the LOS first, then you will understand why they have actually designed the curriculum in such a way that it explains everything. Okay, so now let's do few more examples here. This is the first question is preferred stock valuation. So preferred stock valuation. Now let's see the question. What the question is? So companies 100 par preferred stock pays $5 annual dividend and at the required rate of 8%. Calculate the value of the preferred stock. So this stock pays $5 annual dividend. The required rate of return is 8%. They have given us simply the numbers. So preferred stock valuation, there is no growth rate mentioned. No, there is no growth rate mentioned. This means uh, neither we are going to apply the Gordon growth formula, neither or we are going to apply the constant changing dividend growth formula, changing dividend growth rate formula because there is no growth rate. So this is actually a simple question. So what we are going to do is we are going to divide 5 0.08. This is going to give us our answer. Uh, Even if I do it manually, 250 divided by 4, 125 divided by 2, 62.5 is the answer. Now, next question is based on Gordon growth formula. So Gordon growth model valuation, calculate the value of the stock that is expected to pay. Now this is expected to pay. Now they are saying this is expected to pay. They are not saying D0, they are saying D1. So at time 0, always start from time 0. So they are expected to pay here. The dividend is 1.62 next year. If the dividend is expected to grow, the growth rate is 8%, and the required return on equity rate is 12%. So how will we solve this? So since they have given us D1, they have given us D1. If they had given us D0, they had actually given us D0, so what we would have done is we have multiplied it with growth rate. So this would have given us D1. If they would have given us D2, we would have to discount it back to D1, or we could have, uh, okay, that's a different kind of a question. We will talk about that. So, how do we solve this question? So, dividend is 1.D1 divided by growth rate minus growth. This is the basic formula here. The rate minus growth. So, dividend is 1.62, and I am going to divide it by 0.12 minus 0.08. This is going to give us 1.62 divided by 0.04. If I cancel out everything and if I divide it by, let's say 281, now again $40.5. This is the answer to this question. And there is this third question now. So the third question is about multi-stage dividend growth. This is the multi-stage dividend growth, something like this. This is also a multi-stage dividend growth formula. So here the situation is going to be that the dividend is going to change. later in the time. So consider a stock with a dividend that are expected to grow at 15% for 2 years, after which they are expected to grow at 5% per year indefinitely. And the last dividend paid was $1. So at time zero, time one, time two, and time three. And this point forward, everything will be so at time zero, the dividend at time zero was $1. The dividend is expected to grow at 15%. So the dividend at time one is going to be 1.15. This is going to be 1.15 square, or I can simply say 1.32. Now, this point forward at time three, the dividend is going to increase indefinitely at 5%. This point forward, now for time three, I'm going to take this as a reference. So this is going to be my D0 and this is going to be my D1. So, okay, not D2, 3 or D4. Let's use D3. So for to calculate D3, I will be needing D2, dividend 1, and this is dividend 2, and this is dividend 1, this is division 0. To calculate my D3, I will be needing D2. So D2, 1 plus growth rate. So this 1.32 is going to grow at a rate of 5%, 1.05. Now divided by uh, the R minus G. So how would the calculation look like? 1.32 multiply by 1.05 and divided by rate. The expected rate is KE, cost of equity is 11%. This point forward, 0.11. And we are going to subtract our growth rate of 0.05 out of this, 0.05 out of this. Uh, After calculating everything, this will give us a value of 23.10. So 23.10 is the dividend to the present value. So from here, we are actually calculating the present value at time 2. So PV at time 2, because when we are calculating for one period backwards. So here the present value at time 2 is going to be 23.10. Now understand this thing. Now the important portion. Cash flow at time 0, cash flow at time 1, cash flow at time 2. Cash flow at time 1 is 1.15. Cash flow at time 2 is 1.32 plus 23.10. And cash flow at 0 is 0. It's going to be 0 because we did not took position here. So the dividend started flowing to us from this point. Now I'm sharing my calculator screen with you again so that we could second clear work. Everything is clear. Cash flow, I think. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my cash flow numbers. First is 1.15. Enter. Don't forget to press enter. Second is 23.10. 23.10 plus 1.32. This is my second cash flow. Now I need to uh, come go to the NPV function, net present value. My interest rate is going to be 11%. Enter, press downward arrow and press compute. So NPV, they are going to compute as 20.86. So the net present value of everything is going to be $20.86. This is the present value. This is the present value of the stock. Yes, this is a little confusing, but this is what uh, and this is how they actually test the concepts of candidates. So the questions are going to be, I mean, there are going to be easy questions. They are going to be the difficulty level is going to increase. There are going to be easy questions. There are going to be medium difficult questions, and there are going to be difficult, highly difficult, low, high, and medium difficulty levels questions when you appear for the exam. But the concept, this is very applicable when we talk about valuation of a equity stock. So equity research analysts usually value the equity of a company using these formulas. Unless until there is a cash flow, you cannot value a stock. So I hope this is clear. Mm, okay. So now let's go to our, uh, I mean, the question and answers first. So let's try to discuss few questions here only. So there are 38 questions now. No, not 38 questions, but the sequence, I mean, there are three LOSs. So the sequence is, uh, don't go through the, I mean, don't worry about the sequence. We will be discussing every question. So equity investor has a required return of 7%. So the required return is 7%. And this, they are talking about an equity investor. The purchase preferred stock. And okay, the investor actually required return is 7% and purchase preferred stock with the 50% per share value. And the annual dividend is 3.2. So the value of the preferred stock is closest to what? So there is an option 50, 46, and 30. So this is actually a preferred stock situation. So the preferred stock, the formula is simply the dividend divided by rate. So dividend is 3.2 and the rate here is 7%. And the answer to this is 45.71 and this is 45.71 and 46 is roughly the answer. So the value of a preferred stock is based on the assumption that the annual dividend will be paid in perpetuity and this is equal to 45.71. Just remember this thing when we talk about preferred stock. If there is not a growth rate, if there is no growth rate given, so this means this is the formula dividend divided by rate. This is what the question is asking you about. Okay. So question number one, uh, water industries at preferred stock outstanding that pay annual dividend 3.75%. If the investor want to earn a return of 8.5, he how much should he be willing to pay for the share of the stock? And this is again a relatively easy question. Simply no growth rate is given. So this is a no-brainer kind of a question. To calculate the price, we need the discount. We need to discount the future dividend stream to investors' required rate of return, and the stream of dividend is actually perpetuity, a fixed dividend in each year forever. So, given the present value of perpetuity, the formula is cash flow divided by discount rate, or this represents PMT, payment divided by rate, or Coupon divide coupon, not coupon, but when we are talking about stocks, you can use dividend. Dividend is the much better word to use. Dividend divided by rate. So here the dividend is 3.75%, and the rate is 8.5%. And I am actually going to convert this rate into numbers 0.085. So don't get confused when you are converting percentage into numbers, because this is going to mess up your calculations. So when we use calculator, so 3.75, if you divide this equation, you will get somewhere around 44.12, and that's the right answer to this question. Okay, so question number three. This is the next question now. So compute the present value of perpetuity with 100 payments beginning 4 years from now. This is where the perpetuity will start. One, this is time zero, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is where the perpetuity will start. This point forward. Okay. If you the calculate the present value of perpetuity with $100 payment beginning 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here you will receive a $100 perpetuity payment. Now, this is a good question. This will test your concepts. Here, the perpetuity, if you calculate the perpetuity, the first payment here, so you will be calculating the value here. Understand this thing. This is important. This is very important. So, you are discounting it back to time three, because right now you cannot discount it because there is no growth rate for future reference. So you're discounting it. You're discounting it 1 year back to the I mean back in the past. So annual rate is 10%. So 10 uh, uh, perpetuity is actually this 100 divided by the 10% point one. So at this time, at time three, the value of this perpetuity is actually $1,000. This based on this is our formula. Dividend dividend. No, this is a present value perpetuity. Let's say I'm assuming that this is a bond, not an equity. So dividend, okay, not so. If this is dividend, this is a bond, then this should be coupon. Coupon slash dividend doesn't really matter. So upon rate, now I need to discount this to the present value at time zero. So 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be 1,000 divided by rate of 10%, 1.1 to the power 3. And this is going to give me the present value. This is the future value. This is the future value. FV is 1,000. Time is 3. Uh, okay, N is 3. IY is going to be my 10%. Present value I need to calculate, and the rate is going to be, what am I missing? Payment. There is no payment. So payment is not there. Payment is going to be zero. If you plug in all these numbers into the calculator, you will get somewhat around 751. 751 roughly 751 something decimals. So I would suggest you, for every question, when you are there's a numerical question, try to make a timeline. Timeline works best. Okay, next question is, a stock is expected to pay dividend uh, next year. So next year the dividend is going to be paid next year at time zero, time one, time two, time three. Analysts is expect Analyst expects the dividend growth at a constant annual rate of 4% and believes investors require rate of return is rate is 7%, growth is 4%, and this is a simple Gordon growth formula, dividend discount model. This is a simple discount dividend discount model. The formula, they have given you a dividend next year is going to be 2.4. So D1 is they have given you 2.4. If they had given you dividend right now, so you actually, if they would have given you D0, then you actually would have calculated your D1. D1 would have been D0, 1 plus growth rate. If, if, if D0 was given, so you would have calculated your dividend at time one first. And the formula for this is dividend at time one divided by rate minus growth. 2.4 divided by 0.07 minus 0.04, 2.4, 0.03, and simply $80 is your answer. Okay, now let's move to next question. Next question is question number 5. So given investors required annual return of 12.5, a perpetual bond, and there's some other information also, pays at 87.5 a year in interest, should be valued at what? Okay, this is again a simple question. So here also growth rate is not mentioned. So investors required rate is 12.5, a perpetual bond, and the coupon payment is $87.5, and in interest should be valued at what? So coupon divided by rate is going to be 87.5 divided by 12.5%, and this is going to, once you calculate this thing, this is going to give you 87.5 divided by 12.5, not 12.5, you need to convert this into percentage numbers. My bad, 0.125. Once you convert this, this is going to give you $700 as the answer, the value. Now, question number 6. Question number 6, this is relatively easy. Uh, Loan of 15,000 is paid off in monthly payments over 5 years at 12% annual interest. So here, the loan of 15,000, this is a question which is talking about annuity. So the loan of 15,000 is to be paid off. So by the end of the time, the loan value is going to be zero. So present value is 15,000. N is 5 years. The rate is 12%. Now PMT we actually have to calculate, and the future value is going to be zero. This is an annuity question. Here they're actually talking about annuity. So if you once you plug in all these numbers into the calculator, you would be able to calculate the PMT. So you actually have to calculate the PMT. If you find any difficulty, post a comment in the comment section, and I will get back to you onto this. Any difficulty using the calculator, just post a comment. The question number nine, and also share the timing, uh, the reference, so that I would be able to go to that specific time and answer your query. This is related to what? So question number 9 is a bond with 10-year maturity has a face value of 10,000 and pays an annual interest of 600. The bond is issued at 9500. Bond yield to maturity. I/Y we actually have to calculate. A bond with a 10-year maturity, N is 10. Face value, the bond's face value is 10,000, pays an annual interest of PMT here is 600. And this bond is being issued at a price of 9,500. Yield to maturity, here you actually have to calculate the rate. And uh, so no calculation is needed to answer this question because the bond was issued at a price of 9,500. If you look at the question, 9,500, which is below the face value of 10,000. So this is actually a discount bond. Now, if you this is actually a discount bond. And if you look at the $600 interest rate, so this is actually a discount bond. First, second point, if you look at this, the coupon rate is 6%. So coupon rate is 6% and uh, the bond is a discount bond. So this means the interest on the bond IY must be greater than 6%, and simply put, C is the answer. But if you still want to calculate the IY, you can plug in these numbers and you can calculate the IY using the calculator function. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's discuss the other questions in our next session, and let's wrap it up today. The session for today, we have how many questions? We have somewhere around 16 practice questions, and we will discuss about these questions in our next session. Thank you. Thank you for attending the session. All right.